My name is Steph, and I am the owner and operator of Southwest Bits Limited, a web accessibility consulting agency for primarily targeting small businesses and nonprofits to help them in their accessibility journey, whether that means that they're looking to maintain or gain new contracts with city and state or federal vendors, uh, official vendors, public vendors, however you want to call them, or just looking to maintain funding, avoid legal action, expand your market by about 20%. Whatever your goals are, I'm here to help you meet them with accessibility. So let's dive right in. I want to expand on my own journey in accessibility. If you've been following along, I started out applying and coming up with what I call the POUR method, and I applied it to my own website. And so the process that you'll go through with me as your consultant in accessibility and your partner in this is I will do a high level overview. I will basically execute the first half of POUR method. And so what that means is I use this tool. I can't use it right now in this recording, but I use this tool. You get 2 free scans a day for like whatever domain it is. So I've already reached that limit. Excuse me, but you can see here that I've used it before, and as I published the newest version of this website, which I have open here, is, oh, excuse me, which I have open here, it's been fantastic. And you'll see I did some updates in May. I've added an accessibility report, a very minimal one for myself as well, because this is what I do. And there are some new updates. You can now book directly on the website. I've also republished this gallery. So as I redid this in my CMS system, I really worked on making sure I was paying attention to the errors that were called out in this previous report. Things that I knew were not quite right or didn't fit. If you experience this version of my website, that privacy policy wasn't there, so I had to do some troubleshooting with the company, with my CMS company. So these are the depths I'm willing to go to. So anyhow, I have iterated, and when I get the updated version of this ADA check report, I will share it. And if you decide to go and work with me, the next step for me would be to do not the maturity model, but an audit, right? I would go through and do a much more in-depth audit. And this audit is based on the WCAG 2 checklist. I can show you what that looks like or link it in the description of this video. But basically what I've done here is I've made every single level of the WCAG in its own situation and each of the individual guidelines that goes through it. And because it's a Southwest Bits document and I've built it for the POUR method, you'll see little stars next to those guidelines that help meet that basic POUR method situation. So once this audit is complete, you'll see there's a little report here that shows what that looks like. Let's say my site has done all of the POUR method pieces, right? I'm going to show you what this looks like. So now let's say I've done 3 out of them and I got a partial over here, right? So what you'll notice here is each one of those, they change just a little bit. Shows you that it passed. So however you want to read this, perfectly fine. What you'll also see here is that there's an overall pass-fail for every single one of those guidelines. If you wanted to tick all 87, go right ahead, but that is going above and beyond. What you'll see here, I've also outlined what that could look like for AAA, AA, and single A. All of the POUR method guidelines that you have to meet are A guidelines, and you'll see here I hit 75% of that. So I'm partially compliant with that. So let's say you and I work together. I did all the things. Let's go back and do a little bit of documentation and use the same company. This Wave company is the one who helps publish these standards that we're using, right? They're the ones that I based this massive spreadsheet on and all of that. So this is a plugin for Chrome, and when you use it, they say wave this page. It's really adorable. But so you can see I've done that, and it doesn't give me any kind of score. And that was part of why I wanted to make my own template so that I could give reports, and here is in your hands documentation, what we've done and those checks in a way that sort of makes sense, because none of this really makes a ton of sense to me, and I've been at this for about 5 years now. And you know, some of it makes sense, but I have to go digging in and dig deeper and all those types of things. And what does this do? And you can absolutely still do that, totally fine. One of the things I did want to call out here is if you click into some of these areas, it'll give you, here's that standard, and it's pointing at the checklist. So let's click on it. I'll just show you what that checklist looks like. So this template is based on this checklist, and you'll see it's very in-depth. It gives you lots of information. It's fantastic. There's a PDF version of this, totally helpful. You can do this online. You can set it up and say, okay, I only want to do this and that and so on and so forth. But again, there's not a report really that says yes or no. It's not ideal. So the way I set up my download was for this version and this version, and again, built it up. Here's this really important thing, call it out. These are not the exact guidelines. This is just a way to go through and check off the list, like, yes, I did X, Y, and Z. So that's the high-level audit. If one of these falls into a partial or remediation situation, then again, if we work together, depending on which package you choose, I do a much more in-depth audit across different operating systems, and the more complex it is, actually provide an accessibility compliance report to my clients, and that's what this is. It's still in the works, but this version, the audit, is solid, ready to go. So just wanted to give a high-level overview of what that looks like working with me and how those things sort of relate back and forth. If this seems like an interesting set of things to go through or work with, and you want to explore even more of your own accessibility journey, I invite you to reach out on my page called Consulting Services. You can also reach out in any one of the footers of my websites and find any of my social links. The consulting page, though, has my calendar and Upwork, so you can hire me directly if you want to do that. So I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope that your journey into accessibility is fruitful.